Hi, everybody. Welcome to Accelerating Lower Middle Market Value. Today, we have John Taylor of Taylor Fit PEO. Nice to have you, John.
Nice to be here, man.
Yeah. Well, John, if I can remember correctly, that we connected, I think about a year and a half ago on LinkedIn, and if my memory serves me well, that the reason we connected is I was working with a client to actually try to source a PEO, and I'm definitely going to want you to explain to our audience exactly what a PEO is. But I was working with a client to source a PEO, and what I loved at the time, you were working for a business that had a very strong focus on PEOs for blue collar industries. And that was something that I was not familiar with at all. That when I think of PEOs, that I think of, working in professional services, smaller businesses, et cetera. But it's definitely not something in blue collar industries. And, as our relationship developed and we stayed connected on LinkedIn, and you help defend some of my posts sometimes against other, people that comment or say bad things on them. Yeah,
Thanks, bullies.
the bullies on LinkedIn that, that, you have since started your own business. And so I definitely want you to expand upon that. But to start, John, I'd really love to just hear your personal story that, how have you landed to starting a business called Taylor Fit PEO? How did you get here? That I'd love to kind of hear from the beginning, your personal story and where you landed today and how you landed there today.
All right. So, I was in my late 20s, early 30s, and I got into insurance. And I started working for your normal PNC insurance, your farmers and all states and things like that. And I got a little love for helping people through things they just didn't quite understand. And that's, everyone thinks they understand it until they actually get down to it and they realize they don't really know what they're talking about. So I really kind of got a love for that. After a while, I realized that just that level wasn't going to cut it for me. So I started looking at different options. Close to my house over here was a very small PEO called Harbor America, which is a blue collar focused PEO. That's kind of originally how our industry came about, was helping through workers' comp programs through blue collar situations, right? People's modifier rates got too high. They got to keep their contract. So they went together and created a system to where they're able to help these businesses out, stay on the jobs, keep the people into it. So I got to learn the blue collar side from, some of the legends in our industry who helped create this entire marketplace. So I learned a ton. With that, we were then acquired eventually by a behemoth called Venture Employer Services, which is probably the largest PEO now, if not one or two. I think I was talking to someone yesterday that have 3 million worksite employees that they handle now.
Wow.
So, I mean, massive. So I've got to see the blue collar side, the white collar side. We've acquired 50 or 60 businesses while I was there. And so I got to see all these different ways of doing PEO. All the people we've purchased or all the ones we did internally. We kind of evolved our steps and processes by the people that we acquired and what worked well for them. So I got a good round knowledge of what works, what doesn't work, what clients are experiencing, and went that route. My main focus when I was at Venture was benefits. I was a regional vice president for benefit sales. So I helped sales reps from basically Georgia to Hawaii sell their benefit plans and sell their PEO plans. So I got to see 1,000 proposals, go over every single scenario humanly possible to help solve these problems for clients. After I left there, I went to the one where we met. It was called Workforce Advantage. It was a tiny, itty bitty PEO. And with that, I was really trying to learn the back office more of PEO. What is I learned the sales side, I learned the comp side, I learned the benefits, and I really wanted to learn the nitty gritty of the costs associated with running a PEO, how much it takes to run administration for employees, all that. So learn the really back office. And it was intentional for me going there for that reason, because I ultimately wanted to start my brokerage firm. And to learning all sides of the house would be the best way for me to really be able to offer my expertise to a client. You can't tell me it costs this much when I know it only costs this much. You can't tell me this when it actually costs this. So it just gave me that leg up to negotiate better on their behalf. So once I left Workforce Advantage, I was like, you know what? It's time. So let's put it all together and let's, make this happen.
Great. So big question in the room. Describe or explain to us, what is a PEO?
Oh, okay, great. PEO, it's really simple. Okay, it's called Professional Employer Organization. It's a weird name, but ultimately what it means is co-employment. Okay, so what if all this is a business uses the PEO's FEIN number, okay, for basically tax purposes. Okay, so employment administration and tax purposes. So with that, it allows you to pull together other organizations in one house to create economies of scale, to have better bargaining power, purchasing power, shared liability into one EIN, and just helps protect the business. Ultimately, in just layman's term, that's really what a PEO is.
Got it. One of the big questions I personally have, and I know other business owners that I've talked with about PEOs have, is what are the disadvantages and potential advantages, but what are the things that they should be considering in a co-employment relationship with a PEO? That when I hear business owners and they don't understand a PEO, one of the first things that they're considering is, but wait, these are my employees and I want to hold this relationship. Why would I give somebody else employment of these employees, that these are our team members, et cetera? That what would you say to the business owner thinking that?
I think in the very beginning of what this industry was, it was a little more similar to what you're saying, which kind of maybe got a bad name. It was originally called employee leasing. And with that, that's kind of where they got that mindset of, well, these aren't really my employees. So what I would just ultimately say is, you run the day-to-day operations 100% inside your organization. The PEO really has no sway over the management of an employee or any decision-making process inside your business. They're there just for your support. They support you through HR, your taxes, legal, EPLI insurance, benefits, everything. Right? So you're consolidating all of your vendors into one house under one FEIN number for easily manage it, right? It's called like the easy button of HR operations in your business. You just plug and play. It is ready to go. You don't have to think, worry about it. It's just there. Full employee life cycle from recruitment to retirement, all under one house. You don't have to do a thing.
Got it. Makes complete sense. That, yeah, I think personally I've experienced that, that's the key differentiating or value adding factor that comes for businesses. That, I've grown in my own business leadership, and even in working in corporate and working as a C-suite leader of previous businesses, payroll benefits, you knew it was one of those things that was important, but it was one of the one of the banes of existence. Like we have to do this. Like, why do we have to do this? And that we'd have discussions with the leadership team, and our HR manager would be bringing up, hey, there's this new compliance measure that we have to do with employees, et cetera, et cetera. And to me, having a PEO manage all that, and ultimately that can be off of your plate in terms of coordinating. Like, that doesn't mean that, in my experience, that a business shouldn't be understanding of what regulations and laws are coming their way, but even, PEO organizations, that they can help make sure that they're communicating those to owners. But I've just found it that when the benefit to me really is that having all that managed, and not having to even wonder, is your HR managing that appropriately, that you're outsourcing it, it's getting done for you. And would you agree? Maybe I just kind of, pitched you a softball a little bit there, but, would you agree with what I said, that I that's what I see as the big value of it? But what would you add there?
I just, coming back and thinking about it, like, I sold deals that were 2 people, and then I sold deals that were 200 people, right? And the same thing applies for either side. You still would have to do all this stuff internally.
Yep.
Why? When you can't do it if you're facing it from size 2 to 200, you can't really do what a PEO does for the same pricing structure as what a PEO does it for. Okay, we're basically the cost of a part-time employee and do a myriad of things for you at a single thing. They keep you in compliance. They're always updating you. You have direct payroll processors and HR people to keep you alert. This is coming down the pipeline. We need to add this in your handbook. We got to keep you protected. Let's sign these addendums. Yep. It's just managed. It's just completely done. They all have through their SHRM and all the other systems out there for HR to keep you compliant. You have ways to check into it. 401k help. I mean, just everything you can possibly think of is just housed under one building. So, in my opinion, it just doesn't make any sense for a business that is small not to use one unless they just love paperwork. I mean, that's ultimately what it's about.
Yeah, I mean, even when I think about, businesses that would be apt to not use one, um, I mean, I can't help but think you would need an extremely strong HR leader that understood their own weaknesses and knew how to, and had the budget too to bring the right people around them. I kind of relate it to marketing, personally, John, that, somebody that's really great at social media doesn't necessarily mean they're great in other aspects of marketing and business development, right? They may be really great at social media, and the same thing exists in finance and accounting, sales, operations, and HR. That somebody, you could get an HR leader that really understands recruiting really well or developing culture, et cetera. But they may be just as challenged in regards to keeping up with compliance and making sure that there's proper compliance and that employees are going through proper training and benefits management. And so I guess in my mind, it's kind of that aspect that it's all under one roof, and you don't have to worry about having that excellent leader that knows, what their blind spots are and what gaps to fill. It's covered. It's taken care of. To me, that's the value.
And let's just be honest about the situation. If you're not in a major corporate structure, right, where they have the infrastructure and everything in place, where HR stays in its HR lane, if you're a small to mid-sized business, your HR
Yes.
person is a jack of all trades. Your HR person is helping with accounts payable, accounts receivable. They step in when someone gets laid off. They never give up that position. So your HR person isn't focusing on HR initiatives anyways. So your recruitment and retention suffers. Your bidding processes for a vendor suffer. Everything suffers in this mindset because that's just how it happens, right? We got to get the job done. Let's get the job done. Let's get the job done. And you start being reactionary instead of being proactive. And placing a PEO with you allows you to be intentional with your HR initiatives. Okay, because you have all that other stuff handled for you. You freed up the time, you freed up the workforce to do what you hired them for in the first place. So that's why you typically see a positive ROI with the PEO, because you're actually putting the employees back to doing what you hired them for. So that's, to me, there's so many other factors. People always go for price and this and that and saving money. At the end of the day, it just comes down to you actually get to go do the job you started. Why did you open this business in the first place? Because you love to make this trinket, or you love to do this plumbing service, or you love to do whatever this is. And what happened when you hired that first employee? Payroll, HR, compliance, everything under the sun. So you just use a PEO in its place to take care of all that.
Yeah. I mean, without a doubt, I think every business owner and leader should definitely be focused on, culture building and people building. That, you know, it's very rare that you come across a Fortune 500 company CEO that wouldn't say exactly those two things, that the most important thing that they can be doing is building their people, building their culture, building an organization that people want to work at and that will do their best at, and where people can thrive. And, some of the all of the admin tasks, not having to worry about that, and instead just being able to focus and get your HR department, especially focused on people management and helping to build that culture and really driving a powerful workforce and not having to do the admin. Just, to me, it makes sense that, really getting your people to
Yeah,
focus on those bigger initiatives that really help drive value in the business. Would you agree?
no, I agree. I learned a long time ago that when you're building a business, you set prices and you set your budget on the things that you need to get accomplished. And if you can't do that service or that part of your business with a certain price point or a certain level of quality, you outsource it. And I have yet to find a group besides 2 to 100 that does it better than a PEO does. So it just, they might save money. They might have a spouse that doesn't get paid, who handles a lot of this stuff. Maybe they keep their costs down from that way. But you also are lacking all the quality of it. You're lacking some of the other things associated with it. So price wise or not, savings or not, it doesn't really matter. I still haven't found one yet that can do it better than a PEO can.
Got it. Yeah. And, you mentioned earlier in the conversation that PEOs can provide support in regards to recruiting. that I'd love to understand more about that. And I'd love for you to share with our audience, because I know that, getting good people on the team is one of the biggest challenges that most organizations are facing, especially in the lower middle market, that, they don't have, all the benefits packages. They don't have the ping pong tables of big corporations, right? And the coffee break, in-house coffee shop and all this other stuff. And so they're competing for talent. And, on the other spectrum, constantly, and while it's important, to strategically use headhunting and talent sourcing services, in the right, it can be expensive. And so, yeah, how does a PEO help with recruiting? How does that, work for a business owner?
So it's more like a holistic viewpoint of recruiting, right? It's the entire employee lifecycle management. And by doing a proper employee lifecycle management, and you're getting the right programs at your fingertips and the things necessary that employees want every single day, allows you to have a better offering, which gets you better recruitment and better retention with it. So what I mean by that is, just to say vendors, there's a million things out there that you want access to, right? So most people today would say, I need to make sure I have health insurance. I need to have access to 401k. I need to have earned wage access. This is something huge and popular nowadays. There could be a million things. EAP, Employee Assistance Program, with mental and health benefits and things along those lines. If you don't offer that and you're not highlighting that in your recruitment, people are going to bypass you. So I look at these job sites and job postings every single day on LinkedIn and all these different services. It's all, we have this, you do this job, we pay X amount of money. That doesn't get you anywhere, to be honest with you. Everyone pays money. Everyone does that.
Yep.
There's research after research after research that younger millennials and Gen Z and all that care less about the salary amount than they do the benefits associated with it.
Got it.
So, hate to say it, a little bit of a socialistic world is the more given is better than just the more that you have in your pocket. And that's really kind of where it's gotten. And you turn around and look at that. We saw many reports when I was working at Venture where you were seeing people that are taking 10 to 15% less salary at a same job with people lining out their benefit opportunities, right? So we covered 100% of health insurance, where this one is only covering 50%. Well, the same spend happened. It's just the way you framed it. So a PEO that can go in there and design you a full package of, we have this, we go through this program, we have this situation, you can evolve to that. There's learning and management systems. There's earned weighted access programs. There's 401k, all these things. You completely line it out, you have a better benefit offering. So we typically start with a benchmarking through your industry. All right, so let's go ahead and benchmark who you are. What are your top 5 competitors? And let's figure out what the heck they have. So at that point, then you go to figure out what we call employer of choice. That is my favorite terminology of what I do. My job is to make you an employer of choice and free up the capital and time for you to do that. If I'm able to do that, you're going to be a successful business. So employer of choice is, if I lined up those 5 companies, you're all on one street, and you have people go interview at all 5, why are they going to work for you and not one of your competitors? And tell me why. Why would they pick you over them?
Yep.
And be honest with it. And when you get to that nitty gritty with it, you can start building a solution that will actually fix your recruitment problems. And what the best recruitment is referrals. And if your employees are happy, they're going to bring their friends and family that do good work into that business. They're not going to bring garbage into your business. They're going to bring the top flight employee because they want to keep this because it's great.
Great answer, John.
That's truly what a PEO does for your recruitment.
Yeah. I love that analysis of comparing, where a business is at against some of its top 5 competitors, and really starting from that overall strategy perspective. Because, sometimes you can get vendors that you go reach out to somebody and you kind of have to tell them like what you're looking for, but doing that more of the rough analysis to make sure that we're creating a program that is beneficial for your entire company and this is the value it's going to drive. I think, yeah, from that starting point, that's wonderful. That makes.
And if you can get a buy-in from a client, be like, what issues have you seen? Well, I've had 25% turnover. Have you done exit interviews? Nope. Okay. What have you heard? Our benefits weren't great. It went up 20% and we didn't eat the cost. We gave it back to the employee. Okay, well, if you had a program in place that already lowered that number so you didn't have that issues, or everything else was so wonderful in the company, they didn't care about that extra $100 they had to spend that year or that month, all that makes into a healthier environment at your office, keeping employees. Right? It's, like I said, it's a more holistic viewpoint. It's not a solving a single problem. It's the entire employee life cycle management. If you have that buttoned up from start to finish with programs and processes in place, that's where you win. I always hear people go to PEOs for Fortune 500 benefits. It's not the health insurance is what they're talking about. It's the employee lifecycle management is what the Fortune 500 benefits are.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
It's start nuts to end, right? Start to finish is what the actual Fortune 500 benefit is. So you're getting a Exxon infrastructure from start to finish as a 40-man HVAC company.
Great. Yep. Makes complete sense. I'm interested, especially that whole life cycle of the employee. And I'm sure that you have a lot of experience of seeing, what seems to be attractive versus not. For business owners, especially in the lower middle market, and we define the lower middle market as businesses between 5 and 50 million in revenue, what would you say that they should be considering as the top benefit that is appreciated by employees that, based upon your experience with it, that what are some of the most attractive things that really keep an employee hanging around in an organization for a long time?
Low health insurance costs. Everyone sees that as usually their second largest expenditure next to salaries is their health insurance costs inside of a business. I would tell you that's where you invest. If you invested more into the quality of healthcare, the amount you contribute to a health plan, the more you give to their employee and spouse, employee and children, family plans, you would have less turnover. You'd make your money back up on the back end every single time. I would say that is the absolute number one thing if you can get that through a business owner's head.
Yep. I'd say too, even from my own experience, sometimes my wife and I sit at the kitchen table and I'm blessed that, as a business owner, I have to go buy my own insurance, right? Or our own family health insurance. And it's a decent plan. It's not great, but oftentimes my wife will come and so she, is taking the kids to the doctors a lot and helping to process the claims and make sure that, we're not paying too much, that the claims have been properly processed, et cetera. But it's just how many issues she has with working with the insurance companies too on actually getting a claim properly processed that, at least in my experience, that I wish that there was a way that from a benefit perspective that the actual claims process for the employee is made easier, because when they're having to spend, either time on the clock of the business owner because of the office hours and being able to contact the claims office during business hours, or they're having to take time out of their day or in their afternoon away from family to try to work through a claim, it's the bane of our existence of, my wife would just come and she'll say, I spent 2 hours on the phone today, doing this with a 2-year-old, clamoring on my leg. Like, this was not a fun experience. This really stinks. And, and we talk about that at the dinner table. So I think, I would encourage that if there's any benefits packages that could come with the cost, but also the high service, the service is amazing too, that I've come to value that.
And there are PEOs that do a way better job at that than others. There's some where that's their main focal point is that quality of service. It's really kind of like having like their own personal liaison through the carrier to back to the employee themselves, right? So typically it runs to your client service manager or whoever that you're working with as your daily person, your account manager. You'd be like, hey, Susie at my office has been having a hard time getting this prescription drug. And they would move it to the benefits team. The benefits team would work directly with the client, with the employee, the carrier, the pharmacy to solve that issue for you. So instead of doing it all on your own, you actually do have the supporting team. Some are really good at it. Some are really terrible at it. And, that's why I do what I do, is to make sure what's important to you, what are you trying to solve, and I can place you with the proper PEO that's going to handle all those situations for you. That's huge.
Agreed. So I think just to go off of that point, that I'd like for you to expand upon specifically what does Tailored Fit PEO do? That, my understanding is you're not exactly a PEO provider yourself, that, you're helping to place companies with the right PEO solution. I'd love for you to expand upon that. Tell me if I'm dead wrong in that, but yeah, I'd love for you to really expand upon that. Yeah.
So I love PEO, right? I love it. but it's not for everybody.
Yep.
Okay. So the big thing with that is I want to make sure that you're always in the right place at the right time for the right reasons. Okay. And give you the data and everything necessary to make the proper decisions. Going through a PEO proposal, which you've done, you've gone through these situations, you've done the back office stuff, an individual client, right? So let's take, let's see the first one you sent me or we talked about.
Yep.
I'm not going to throw their name out here, obviously, but the first one we talked about, they might have looked at 5 PEOs. What was that process? That's 5 introductory meetings. That's 5 diagnostic meetings to the business. That's 5 benefits review. That's 5 tech demos. That's 5 presentations. And they only saw 5 of the 500 PEOs. Okay. So they did a ton of work for a tiny amount of information. And they just went around the same thing. That's all that ever happened with it. So the best thing about using someone like myself is, and I'm not saying I know 500 PEOs and everything they do with every single one, but I do know who's the cream of the crop in what areas, why, for everything with it. And I have that information and I have the relationships directly at those PEOs to get things done. Okay. Due to not being a direct employee at the PEO, there's no overhead on me for them.
Yep.
So an internal sales rep at a PEO has internal overhead. So they can't get pricing as well as a PEO broker can because we don't have a cost. We know what the costs are. We know how this works. They want us to send them business so we can negotiate better on their behalf. So what we do is instead of you doing that 5 times, 10 times to find the right PEO, you do it once. I bring you back the best pricing, solutions, and everything that we discussed from our conversation. Say, hey, these are my top 2 Blue Cross Blue Shield options with PEOs. This is my top 2 or 3 United Healthcare ones. These are my top 2 or 3 Aetna ones. And these are the reasons why I chose these. This one, this one, this one, this one. Let's review these and let me know which ones that you want to do a tech demo on. I will make my recommendations to you based upon my experience, but we'll go off what you decide how you want to move forward.
Got it.
So that way now I might have quoted 50, 60 PEOs to get the best pricing structure, and now you only had to do this one time. So save time, better negotiating powers and skills, and everything associated with it.
Yeah, it makes complete sense because there's so many difficult things to understand about even the benefits marketplace. Like, I mean, my mother has been an office manager for a dental office. She was an office manager for a dental office for about 40 years. And I guess I just grew to not even want to understand fully what a PPO or an HMO and all those other things were, of all the different plans that she would have to process, because it was like, that's what mom does. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And I would hear the conversations as a kid. And so as I grew up, I was like, I don't want to have anything to do with this. It's like, honey, I talk with my wife. I'm like, honey, if you're able to understand this better than I can, please run with it. Right. But there's a lot of different acronyms out there. There's a lot of things to understand regulation wise. And so to me, for a business owner and their team, to have somebody on their side like yourself that understands these things and can go to bat on your behalf versus spending that time in 5 different meetings and not really understanding what you're looking for fully. It makes complete sense that it just saves a lot of time. Yep. A lot of nuance.
There's a lot of nuance. There's things that people don't even, there's nuance out there that people don't even think of. Okay. So I'll give an example. Some of these companies are privately owned. Some of them are private equity owned. Some are publicly traded companies. What happens every quarter at businesses like this? They start discussing the next quarters and are they going to be more aggressive in their pricing structure this quarter? Or are they going to be a little more risk adverse this situation? What are they trying to do? If you don't know the ins and outs or have someone on your side, you could end up overpaying for a service that you shouldn't have overpaid for, right? My guys go immediately to me and say, hey, John, we're going to be very, very strong on benefits for the next quarter for everyone coming in because we have this initiative in place. Or, hey, we're pulling back the reins a little bit this quarter due to these reasons. We had too much claims experience. And all of a sudden, I have the inside track of finding the right situations for people. There's so much little nuance that you don't have. That's why using a broker is the best way to go.
Just to kind of expand upon that nuance, there's a lot of different acronyms used in the industry, PEO, ASO, HRO, those different solutions. Can you expand upon the difference between each of those?
Yeah. So PO, that's the co-employment, right?
Totally.
I'm trying to make this as easy as possible. I don't want to bore people to death. PEO, you share an FEIN number, right? That's basically all it is. You use the PEO's FEIN number for taxes and buying power. Really easy. ASO is administrative services only. So think about
Got it.
everything outside of HR. Okay, we'll do payroll, benefits compliance, benefits administration. They might help you with your taxes. They might not, depending on what company it is. Just basically bundled services. One entity that helps you do all this other stuff, but you don't really get the extra support and help associated with that. Okay. Now, some people mix these terms. Someone call that HRO, some call that. That's how I view it. PEO is the ASO is basically no HR help, and then HRO is everything a PEO does, but under the client's FEIN.
Declare.
Okay, so HR services, they do it, but you don't bundle everything. It's not under one EIN. There's no pooled risk, but they manage everything for you. It's really just outsourcing your entire HR department.
Got it. Yep. Makes sense. Great. No, thank you for that.
And sometimes that's the better fit. Sometimes an ASO is a better fit. It all depends on each situation. I have a lot of PEO brokers that don't ever touch that. They don't ever go to it. And I was like, well, I think they're missing the boat. So in my opinion, we go after all three of them and find the best solutions for the clients.
John, thank you for your time. I want to ask our final question that we like to ask our guests on the podcast. I like to preface this for our listeners. A business value in the marketplace is a measure of its ability to produce positive cash flows and its ability to manage risk and continue its operations regardless of major disruptions. So the idea is that how much profit and cash flow can a business produce, and how can it continue to produce that regardless of the types of disruptions that could come and hit that business. That's what builds its value. So what's one piece of advice you'd give to CEOs in lower middle market or business owners, owners of lower middle market businesses who are looking to accelerate their company's growth and to create lasting business value?
Everything we just said. I mean, to be honest with you, it is partnering with the proper PEO, ASO, or HRO solution that educates you on how to be an employer of choice. If you are the employer of choice, you're not going to have the headaches and issues and the things associated with running an operation poorly or cheaply, or the problems that are associated with it. And you can focus on the revenue generating task and pass off the administrative burden. By doing that, you're going to stabilize your cash flow because you're not having the up and down different craziness all through. It's going to be really steady. So you'll have better savings on benefits with that. Liability issues, the things that can come out of pocket expenses that have problems, you're stabilizing in a program like that. If for a small to mid-sized business, I have yet to find a situation that's going to work out better than partnering with one of those programs.
Yep. I think qualitatively, you talked about that recruitment piece and how a PEO offers a lot of benefits and can really create a comprehensive, attractive package to make a business owner an employer of choice. And we all hear, all the talk about the cost of having to replace an employee. Once you lose somebody good, that what's the cost of, having to pay somebody to go hire another person, to go recruit another person, onboarding that person, the training, et cetera, and the hope that it all works out too, right? There's a lot of different costs in there. And so, especially in my mind, if a PEO can offer a comprehensive package to help that business be an employer of choice, keep that employee, working for the company and happy, that's a huge cost savings.
It is. Like I said, it really is a infrastructure easy button. It truly is. You really just put it in there, and you have one person, maybe two in your office that has some type of liaison communication back to the PEO to make sure things are running smoothly.
Yep.
That's all it really is. It just makes your life a million times easier. There's companies out there that have been in the PEO for 20, 30 years or are paying 20, 30 years ago pricing, which is astronomical, and they still pay it today.
Yep.
Because it's still profitable at the end of the day for them.
Got it.
Because it's all set up. So that's a number one thing to small to mid-sized businesses like that is partner with one, because it's going to give you the best results, the best ROI than doing it yourself any day of the week.
Got it. Makes sense.
Risk mitigation, cost mitigation, everything associated with it. It just really helps out and stabilizes your entire organization.
Great. Well, John, that for our listeners, if they're interested in learning more about PEOs, if they're interested in working with you, how can they find you? How can they reach out to you?
I like communication. So I would say look me up on LinkedIn, Taylor Fit PEO, John Taylor. everyone throws people to websites, and I have my website being built. I wasn't happy with the first one that came out. So it's being built, redone. So I'm not going to throw the website out there, but look me up on LinkedIn. Start a DM conversation with me. Let me go look at yours. If you currently use a PEO today, you want to make sure it's good or not, give me a call. If you're interested in something like that, let me know. I will show you exactly where you need to go, why you need to go, and partner you with anybody and everybody that can help your organization. I have people like you, fractional CFOs, same situation like that. That could be discovered inside of a call with me. Like, hey, you're having problems in this situation. I have a person for you. I have a person for you on this. Let's connect and let's do things the right way.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, thank you, John. Yeah, really appreciate having you on the show.
All right. Thanks, Mason, man. You have a good one.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to this most recent episode of Accelerating Lower Middle Market Value. We hope that you found actionable insights that you can implement today to accelerate your business value. Wanted to give a shout out to our sponsor, Brady CFO. Brady CFO is a team of CFO advisors that help business owners in the lower middle market build the business of their dreams via comprehensive growth strategies and financing that growth. If you'd like to learn more about Brady's CFO advisory services, visit bradycfo.com. Thanks, everybody. Until next time.